Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome to another Deck Tech. You all cast votes last week and Standard's the format you want, so that's what we're gonna give you. Today we're gonna focus on a deck that performed extraordinarily well this weekend at both the Grand Prix in Beijing and the Star City Games Invitational in Charlotte. Red, White, Burn is the name of the game. Let's get started. There are only 4 creatures in this deck. A playset of Chandra's Phoenix is going to provide a ton of pressure while staying quite resilient to your opponent's removal. Things like Detention Sphere and Chain to the Rocks are bothersome, but Destroy effects will never keep this bird down. This is a necessary creature in this burn deck as it has 2 different roles. First, it forces your opponents to keep in some kind of removal after game 1 when they realize you have no other creatures. Second, it gives card advantage to a red deck. Nothing better than that. Cast a Lightning Strike to the face, free Firebird back to the hand. Seems good. The only other non-land permanents in the deck are 2 Chain to the Rocks. The card is just the best removal there is for this strategy. It functions very much like Detention Sphere for a third of the mana. Sure, it doesn't get rid of copies of Pack Rat, but Burn rarely cares. What are the chances a turn 2 Pack Rat survives an entire turn against a Burn deck? I mean, come on. Come on. The rest of the deck is just land and burn. Not even kidding. Starting at the bottom of the curve, we have 3 Shock. Kills Pack Rat, anything opposing red decks play, mana producers, just a great utility destroyer. Moving right along, we have a ton of cards in the 2 slot. 4 Boros Charm could be considered the backbone of the strategy. For just 2 mana, you either dome them for 20% of their starting health, or protect your creatures against Supreme Verdict. While you may only have the Phoenix's game 1, there are plenty of other creatures to consider after sideboard that you're going to want to protect. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Boros Charm is just a great card. 2 mana, instant, 4 damage to a player. Exactly what this deck wants to be doing. Lightning Strike, another classic, is a natural 4 of. Searing Spear saw play, Lightning Strike will see play as long as it's in Standard as well. It kills a ton of creatures. Plus it's a burn spell, add instant speed, add 2 mana. That's basically the criteria for getting into this deck. I'll give you an example. 4 Magma Jet, 4 Searing Blood, and 4 Skullcrack. All 2 mana, all instant speed spells, all burn your opponents alive. Magma Jet is Shock with Scry. Scry 2 in a burn deck where anything but a land is a live draw is pretty important. Searing Blood is excellent for dealing with early threats while simultaneously bolting your opponent to the face. It's a Shock and Lava Spike in one. Pretty awesome. Oh, Skullcrack, how you destroy the hopes and dreams of so many blue-white control and mono-black devotion players. Sphinx's Revelation and Grey Merchant of Asphodel, not to mention Whip of Erebos, hate this card. If you could ask them, I'm sure they would at least look displeased that it exists. Seriously though, Skullcrack owns those cards. Putting it in the main deck is a direct representation of how the meta is shaping up right now. Mono Black Devotion is the big man on campus. Everyone knows it. Skullcrack helps to deal with its shenanigans. Simple as that. Next up, we have a playset of Toil and Trouble. Trouble's pretty amazing on its own. It is a sorcery, which is unfortunate, but against control decks, Mono Black Devotion, pretty much any strategy that doesn't board vomit, it's a crack in the face turn 3. Most of the time you should be able to get anywhere from 4 to 7 damage through. That's huge, even at sorcery speed. Lava Axe should be embarrassed it can't produce those kind of results. Pathetic. The Toil side is interesting. Yes, it's off color. However, as you'll see, the mana base makes up for this because that's just how good Toil is. I've touched on it before, but sometimes in a red deck where you just play everything you have, you need more cards. Toil can do that. If you're hurting on life total or just really trying to dig the knife deeper, you can cast it on your opponent. Also hilarious. Toil on either player is going to result in fun for you, is basically what I'm saying. The last card in the main is Warleader's Helix. This card helps with survivability, kills Bremas, Corsair, Crewfix, the list goes on. It's also another classic way to burn your opponent directly. An 8-point life swing is pretty dramatic when you're facing a red deck. The land base, I'll do this quickly. 4 Mutavault for aggression, 4 Sacred Foundry because you're red-white, 4 Temple of Triumph, again because you're red-white, but also because Scry is a crazy strong mechanic. Then you have a playset of Blood Crypt and 2 Temple of Silence. Black mana is pretty important. Toil is a big deal in this deck. The mana proves it. All that's left are 5 mountains and bam. The pretty heavy 23 land mana base for a burn deck. Weirdly high, don't you think? Let's talk matchups. Mono Black Devotion is the menace of the format, so we'll start there. You should actually have a pretty decent chance here. Half of their spells are completely useless since you run only Chandra's Phoenix. Even if they kill it, they'll cringe knowing you can just bring it back. It's hilarious. Pack Rat doesn't stand a chance as long as you draw any burn spell in your deck. When looking at your opening hand, make sure you have a burn spell to deal with the rat. If you don't, mulligan. I don't care whatever else you have, you need to kill the rat. Trust me. You're obviously the aggressive deck, so you want to take initiative. A turn 3 Toil in Trouble is always the best idea. They know they need board presence to fight you, so the longer the game goes, the less useful Trouble will be. Get it out early. Save Skullcracks to respond to Grain Merchants and Whip of Erebos shenanigans. Chain to the Rocks is for Desecration Demon, as that is your only real problem in this matchup. You kinda need the chains to fight the demon unless you want to spend 2 burn spells on him, which you never do. Besides all that, go nuts! Burn everything to the ground! After game 1, they'll have taken out at least most of their removal. Satyr Fire Dancer is a great addition here. You can easily 2-for-1 with a burn spell to hit them in the face and kill their Pack Rat. This also works really well against opposing Mutavaults should your opponents be gullible enough to activate them with Fire Dancer in play. Just a great card in the matchup. Obviously bring in more Chain to the Rocks as the demon is your biggest threat. You match up pretty well against this strategy, don't be intimidated. Next up is Blue-White Devotion. This new style is rough against you. Your deck is made to beat up control strategies and mono black. This aggressive strat with control elements is difficult. The way you win this game is by going for the opponent, not the creatures. I know that might sound crazy, but you can't burn out their army. Master Waves is pretty much the nuts against you. You have no answer for him without Chain to the Rocks. The plan is to kill important creatures like Nightveil Spectre the second they come out to keep your opponent's utility down as much as possible. Trouble is a saving grace in this matchup. It'll have early and mid-game relevance if the match goes that long. The best part is that Blue-White Devotion doesn't gain life very often. As a matter of fact, in the Grand Prix list from this weekend, that version of the strategy ran literally nothing that gained life. The damage you deal is permanent. Play your Searing Bloods to their fullest. This isn't like Mono Black where you need all their creatures dead. You just need the high priority ones gone so you can hit the face, and you should be able to pull this matchup out as long as your draw has enough action. Black-White Midrange. This is one of your most difficult matchups. It still runs a lot of removal, which is good for you. A lot of their draws are dead for the most part. The problem is that their creatures are much better than just Mono Black. Blood Baron of Viscopa you have no real good answer for. You have to use 2 cards to kill it. You just do. Protection from White is debilitating to your 2 biggest pieces of creature removal. This also holds true for Obsidian Ghost Council. Not only does the Council gain your opponent life each turn, but it also can't be chained to the rocks. Again, you'll need double burn spells. The best way to play this matchup is watch out for the early Lifebane Zombie and Pack Rat. Destroy them. Then focus on the opponent as much as possible. If you have a Skullcrack or 2, save them for when the Blood Baron or Obsidian try to gain life. Gaining life is the worst thing in the world for you. Stop it at all costs. You can run things like Blind Obedience against this type of deck. It's hysterical. It'll stop Obsidian from attacking pretty much forever. While this trigger still goes off, it's better than taking an additional 5 to the face every turn, right? While this matchup isn't great, you do have 4 Skullcrack and a lot of early game. If you believe hard enough, you can avoid the turn 5 Blood Baron. Or not. Don't think it works that way. Lastly, we'll talk about control decks. I would specify a color combination, but they all play pretty much the same when against a burn strategy. They'll do whatever they can to hold off the onslaught of your creatures and burn spells. Little do they know, you have almost no creatures and your burn spells are much faster and more deadly than their counters. This is what will win the game. No creatures. Supreme Verdict, dead draw. Sphinx's Revelation, good luck casting that early game. Also, Skullcrack. Game 1 should be pretty easy with this variation of the strategy. It really is all about having no creatures. Burning Earth. Just Burning Earth. Play Burning Earth. If they don't counter it, they die. Done. You can also bring in a Chandra or 2 if you want. Since control plays a bit slower than most decks, the 4 mana could net you some serious card advantage with their middle ability. Plus, even when they drop their big baddies, they should be substantially drained on counters by fighting all your Boros Charms, Magma Jets, and Chandra's Phoenix. That about does it for today's deck tech of Red White Burn. What'd you guys think about this newly dominant strategy? I think it's cool. It's a nice variation to a standard burn deck. Next week, here's how we're going to decide what format to deck tech. We like integrating social media. To vote for the next format, follow us on Twitter and message us any format except Tournament Standard. It could be Budget Standard, Legacy, Modern, EDH, Budget Modern. Be creative if you want. I'll tally up the votes from our Twitter followers and that'll be next week's format. Look at me, giving you guys work to do. I honestly just want to talk to you more. Love me. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.